he goes, don't let me interrupt.
Don't let me interrupt. There's just a camera pointed right at you.
It's a little late. Oh man. Okay. Well, good luck with editing that out, Aaron. I think just leave it in. Just like, hey. All right. Well, we'll have stuff like that. Hey, hit up Scott Equipment Company for your local equipment needs. Hey, dude, he's hustling. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Hustle on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, GT Ikard, and today we have with us Ryan Renard. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well.
Good. Thanks for coming out today. Wanted to just learn a little bit about you, what you do, how you got here. Give us a little biography about yourself.
So grew up in Little Rock and went to U of A, graduated from U of A in 2013 with a bachelor's of the architecture study. So it's not the professional degree, it's the 4-year degree if you kind of want to do something related.
Cool.
When I got a studio, I realized I had more free time and went and picked up a minor in, technically it's a minor in finance, but all three of my upper electives were real estate principles, finance and investments, and appraisals. So I tell people,
Awesome.
I have no idea about finance on the greater market scale. So I just tell people it's a real estate finance minor.
Right.
And then I was in the first group of students who could graduate with a minor in sustainability.
Okay.
So did that, went to work for one of my adjunct professors for several years, and then had my first child, and then moved back to Little Rock. And then for about the last 6.5 years, I've been working for a high-end custom home builder, and decided that it was time for some more flexibility and stuff like that, and went off on my own. So
congratulations.
New self-employed.
That is so exciting. The entrepreneurial journey is amazing and terrible and great and awful.
Well, that's all, like I quit my 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours for myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And people are like, oh, you get to work for yourself. It's like the old saying is, yeah, I get to choose what 80 hours a week I work.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's awesome, man. So tell us a little bit about, so you were part of the first class to get a minor in sustainability. So what all does that kind of encompass?
So they had kind of 4 areas of focus. There was like environment, like natural environment, built environment, and I forget what the other 2. So obviously I had to focus on the built environment. And so you could kind of pick these tracks. So there was like a kind of a base, like I don't remember what the minor is. I think it's, let's call it 16 hours. I think 8 of it were a consistent, like everyone took the same, kind of like when you go to get a business minor or major, you've got like the Walton 4,
the core,
the big 4.
Right.
So there was these, and then from there you could kind of pick these specialties, which was one good thing I liked about the School of Architecture. It was such a small college that like my,
the Fay Jones School of Architecture.
Yeah, the Fay Jones School of Architecture. My senior year was when they brought in interior design into one. But being a small school and your advisors, they kind of pushed the bounds of what they could allow. Like I don't think I took World Lit 2 because she was like, you don't need that. But if you want to go take this other class, we'll just cross that out.
That's great.
So it's funny apparently how much authority your student advisors have as far as like
pro tip
altering university standard requirements.
All right. But so that, so you got that minor in sustainability. Is that, I wanted to ask you too, what were you doing for the previous home builder you were working for? And did it have anything to do with that sustainability?
Yeah.
aspect?
So, sustainability was a big priority, for him. He was one of the first to start incorporating like, what are called encapsulated attics and crawl spaces. He was one of the early adopters, at least in our market, of zip sheathing, that green sheathing that you see on a lot of houses, and it's becoming way more popular these days. And I learned a terrific amount from him. I can't knock it. He was a blessing when I was looking for a job down here, and has been a great teacher. I've got 3 young kids, wanted more time with my family, a little bit more flexible hours. So it just kind of worked out, and I kind of had an offer from some investment side. And so I was able to kind of get up and running faster.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm actually supposed to sign a contract today for 2 vacant lots out in Chenal.
Awesome.
To build some spec houses
That's exciting.
And fingers crossed. Hopefully, I'm not try not to jinx it, but I've got a meeting next week for a pool house that'll wind up probably being, I'm gonna guess, well over 150, probably pushing
It's a nice
250 for a really nice pool house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then an architect buddy of mine hooked me up with a house over in Maumelle. So hopefully those two pan out.
That's
so
great,
getting
man.
up and running quickly.
Up and running quickly. Yeah. So that's a perfect opportunity to kind of plug your new business. Like what is it you're trying to focus on? It's a new business, so you kind of have to take opportunities where they come, right?
Exactly.
But what's maybe the goal there? What would you say is your bread and butter? Like if somebody's listening to this and they need something built, what would you say is your value proposition to them?
Yeah. So the company is Greenhaven Design and Build. One thing that I've brought over from my last company is that we use a software program called Chief Architect, and it's a design software. So it's something that there's that additional service offering. So the way I've kind of structured it, similar to the last company I was working for, basically is someone can come to us without any design, and they can get that from Greenhaven, where it's just you know a house so much more intimately when you're the one who designs it. I've had customers who I bet you I could draw most of my plans from the last 6 years almost by heart, even now. Versus I'll have current customers say, how big's my laundry room? And if it's a plan I didn't draw, I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I'll have to go back and look, because you just know them so much more, and you can design them with budgets in mind. So like if I have someone come to me and say, hey, I want to spend $600, it's a lot easier for me to design them from the beginning than them go to some architect who's going to design them a house that's, $900,000, and then I'm sitting here trying to play this game of what can we cut out, you need to go back to the architect and spend more money with them. So I try to price myself, above a plan. I do charge for the plans. It's not a whole lot, but it's got to cover my time.
You have to, yeah.
And it could be anywhere from 40 hours to 120 hours at least for kind of a basic house. I've got some that we work over months to design, and so there's that pricing difference, and I try to set myself up, somewhere north of a quote unquote plan designer that there's, a dozen of around Little Rock, where you're getting a plan and some elevations, but then obviously I'm substantially less than an architect, but it's a different offering. I've got friends who are architects, and it's like, hey, if you're wanting this like 100-page spec book printed out from the very beginning, and they're going to pick everything out for you, then that's where you need to go.
Right.
But for even special, I don't want to say that I can't do anything beyond typical, but because I've designed some pretty really incredible houses, it's just kind of a little bit different service offering.
This episode of Hustle on Purpose is brought to you by Arkansas Real Estate Buyers. If you have a problematic piece of real estate, we would love to help you. Go to the description, click on the link, schedule a free consultation with me personally, and we'll get you set up. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah, it sounds really smart and really interesting, because walk people through let's say maybe what that typical process would look like, where it's like you sit down, you talk to an architect, you spend a lot of money to get some paper drawings.
I mean, tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And time, just to then go meet with a builder and have them say, we can't do this for your budget, or, then there's that whole reiteration process you kind of touched on. But so bringing that all in-house makes a lot of sense.
Right.
One-stop shop for most of that.
And I can design it, being the builder, I can design it the way that I know that either the subcontractors are going to interpret plans. And so I can give them notes that I know that person's going to ask me for anyway, rather than sending this RFI, request for information, back to an architect. A plan designer is not necessarily going to dimension to the center of a sink, but I know that if I'm doing a house on a slab, my plumber's got to have that.
Right.
And so then try to avoid you want to limit them having to scale things off in the field as much as possible. Just because things get off a little bit, and there's, acceptable amounts of things getting off where you can work with it. And then there's other critical things that, occasionally wind up having to take up pieces of a slab to adjust plumbing or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's trying to get ahead. The biggest thing it offers is getting ahead of that and avoiding what could be an otherwise unnecessary cost later. I mean, and I've had customers come to me, right?
It's efficiency for time and
who have
money.
spent $30,000 with an architect, and throwing them in the trash when they walk in my door. And I've taken over. There was one year I think I took over 4 different designs from people who had spent tens of thousands of dollars, even from 10, 12, 15. One of them I think had spent over 30.
It's some expensive paper.
And we threw them in the trash because the architect wasn't listening, because one thing you learn in school and they can emphasize is developing your own personal style. And some architects, not all, but some have a tendency to push that style, whether it's what the customer wants or not, versus my pitch to every customer is, look, you're the one paying for it, and you're the one that's going to live there. You are not going to hurt my feelings with anything you see on this computer. And I personally prefer a real collaborative thing where they feel like they've got a lot of input. So I'll work on the plans and stuff like that in between meetings, because I tell people, like, you don't need to watch the paint dry. You don't need to watch me go in and adjust cabinets and adjust door heights. I'll do all that in between meetings. But the bulk of our work and the bulk of the progress is made just like this, in person. I'll have a TV up on the wall or screen or something like that, and they're sitting here real time, because the program is very user friendly and it's real quick to make adjustments. And so the customer can sit here right beside me and go, hey, can we make that closet 1 foot bigger? Yeah, no problem. And I can bump it over immediately, and they see it real time.
Yeah.
And the function of that program is 3D. So
Nice.
compared to a plan designer and compared to a lot of architectural software, it's real time. I mean, I can immediately drop a camera inside of that floor plan and show them what this kitchen looks like.
Change the paint colors, and
You can change paint colors. I can get it down to putting a utility knife on the countertop.
nice.
I don't typically go that far with clients unless they want to pay more for that kind of detail. But I get, cabinets in place and walls and windows and all that kind of stuff. But I typically don't dive into color, and I might say, do you want a wood floor in here, a dark one or a light one?
Yeah.
Just to help them with that visual. But if they want me to go through and start pulling in particular manufacturer specs, and sometimes some customers require that. And so I'll say, hey, go out, you like this medium wood look, go out, pick one. Let me know, because our program has manufacturer catalogs. So a lot of their selections, I can get that exact selection into the program and really help them visualize what that space is going to look like.
Yeah, because it's a big struggle for a lot of people. You have a lot of experience in this industry, in that field. You can look at a 2-dimensional plan and visualize what the inside of that house looks like.
Right.
I can walk into a house that to, let's say, the untrained eye looks like a garbage heap. And I'm like, well, I know for like X amount of dollars there and X amount of dollars there, we can get that all new, that wall can go, this can change, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking about possibilities, and I can pretty easily visualize that in my head. But that comes from a lot of experience, and some people are more prone to it than others. But I would imagine it's almost like you have to be like a doctor practicing like their bedside manner, where it's like you have to hold these clients' hand through that process, and you want to make sure that they're getting what they want, because the more collaboration in the middle of that process, the less potential issues on the back end, right?
It's way cheaper for me to move a wall a foot on that computer program than it is in the field. And it helps them so much. I know what a 12 by 12 bedroom feels like.
Right.
They may not.
Yeah.
And, the computer, it does a good job. It's not perfect, but it does a really good job of giving them, a perspective of how that feels, because you can drop furniture in and stuff like that. And my queen bed with my 36-inch, nightstand that I already have, I can drop that in there. I can drop in, hey, go home. I'll tell people, any furniture you're going to keep, go home and measure it. Your dining table, maybe you've got a really nice couch. Anything like that, I can adjust the dimensions within my program to fit those things, and we can make sure that we're going to have plenty of space, and you're not going to get the furniture in there and then go, oh crap, we need, 6 more inches.
Right. Or, oh crap, like we have a ton of room around this dining table and now it's awkward.
Yeah. Because
I'm sure you've had people that are like, well, we really want like a 25 by 20 foot bedroom. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
and there are some that it may be what they have, and they say that, I've had very few customers over the last several years ask me for a big monster bedroom.
Right.
But I had one in design that I've now left back with the old company. But yeah, they had like a 16 by 30 master bedroom plus a sitting area bump out on it. And I was like, this is there's a lot of wasted space here. She's like, it's what we have now and it's what we want to keep.
Okay.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I tell customers, look, I tell, I joke with some of my subs, I have time to push back one time. You say something, I'll go, are you sure? What about this? And
I like
if they
that.
say,
Yeah.
I'm sure, that's it. I may not agree with the decision, and they may come to regret it later.
Yeah.
But I don't have time to be like, no, really, think about this.
Are you really sure?
Yeah, I don't have time to do the what's your final answer type game.
I like that a lot. I've got time for one pushback. I like that. Just confirm. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it's like that with budgets too. I've had there were some clients recently that I've known since I was a kid.
Yeah.
The wife I've known since I was probably 4 years old, and the husband I've known since ninth grade.
Does that make it better or worse?
They were really good customers. They were. But I could also speak to them in a manner that I wouldn't necessarily speak to some of my especially clients who are older than me. Mm-hmm. So like I got their appliance quote, and it was like $3,000 over their budget, and they had budget was a big deal for them. Like it is for most.
As it is for most people.
Yeah. And I called them and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean? I said, why am I getting a quote for GE? What did they do? It wasn't Profile. It was
but a higher tier than
a higher end. Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Planned on.
And I said, what do you do? Why am I getting a quote for this? And they said, well, they were like, don't blame the salesman. They're like, he was working up a quote for the Profile line, and we started walking around, and I was like, there's your mistake. He showed you what was in your budget, but then you started walking to the other areas of the showroom.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at a quote for $300 over budget. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do that? Yeah, we're cool with that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It
And luckily the project management software we use, they literally have to sign it with a mouse if they're on their computer.
Right.
And so it's like, all right, you approved this. So there's no going back later and going, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. It's like, no, you saw the number and here's your signature.
Right.
And so it's been really good with client accountability. That particular Builder Trend is the project management software I use.
Yeah. Cause you have to protect yourself. You don't want people coming back and saying, change order wasn't approved by me or whatever.
Yeah. And so I've operated on the cost plus model for the last 6 years. And so my change orders are a little bit different. It's kind of like it costs what it costs, and then here's my percentage. And so if it's a substantive change order, not like I want a more expensive appliance package, that's fine. You log on and approve the selection. So I'll put change orders into the selections like, hey, we're going to add a dormer on the back of the house. They go in, and if they ask me for one, I'll kind of throw like $2,500 or something like that out there, and they can log on and approve it. And that's rather than doing like, oh, well, let me go back and work up this exact quote and then stick a 50% margin on it because I underbid the project at the beginning.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, that's all awesome, man. I'm excited for your new business and everything. So what were you mainly doing at the previous place? I know that I don't want to keep bringing it up. I was just curious.
No, I mean, it's been,
was it mostly like design, project management?
It was 6.5 years of 6.5 years plus 2 weeks.
So probably a lot of things.
So we would typically, my boss is older, and so we typically divided clients by age just because it's really easy for me to text clients and be like, hey, I'll holler back at you after bedtime. I'm doing bedtime right now.
Yeah.
And they're always like, cool. There was 1 year where I had 3 different houses with clients that had kids all either the exact same age and spread as mine or like within a year.
That's cool.
And so it was really neat to be like, oh, what are you going through with this right now?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do for preschool for your youngest
You had a little community of like people going
it was
through
nice.
the same thing.
But for the last 6 years, basically we would separate clients primarily by age, but sometimes somewhat style. And so whoever kind of took that job would run it all the way from design through the very end.
Cool.
So with the exception of writing checks to subcontractors, if it was my job, it was my job. I would design it. I would project manage the whole thing from start to finish. I would develop the budget and allowances and things like that. Yeah. So it was my boss and I ran pretty independent of each other, which kind of luckily put me in the position where I could step out.
Right. You got all that experience of doing
And I happened
everything.
to have concluded, 3 jobs in Q4 of last year. And so it just happened that I had like 1 house and punch and 1 remodel. And so it was a really good time for me to step away and not be dumping a whole bunch of work into his lap.
Halfway done like projects and That's awesome. So you've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
My third is on the way.
Yeah.
So due in 5 weeks.
There you go.
I've got a little girl, a little boy, and then another little girl on the way. Just because it's on my mind, what do you have any advice for the third kid? 3
is hard because all of a sudden, you only have 2 sets of hands.
Right.
So my youngest one is a week shy of 7 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she's a baby.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so she was born back in October. And luckily, my oldest one, he'll be 7 in the summer at the end of June. And then my middle one just turned 4. So we got a pretty decent spread between all of them.
Yeah.
Pushing 3 years between each one. So luckily, the oldest one was old enough that he not only could be a little more self-sufficient, but also understood, hey, for a while, like, she needs my attention more.
Mm-hmm.
And I love you, and when she's down, you've got all my attention. And my wife and I try to be very intentional with the time that we spend with kids.
You have to be.
So there's, at least once a month, she'll take, each kid kind of gets a one-on-one, date with mom or dad. So, 3 nights, we don't do it with the baby yet. So like 2 nights each month, either my wife takes just our middle child or just our oldest and goes and does something fun. And
that's great.
Yeah, they like different things. I can take my middle one out to run in the park because that's his life. He's the wild child.
Yeah.
Versus the other one would just as soon go to a movie or go to Dave and Buster's or something like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I'll probably try and start doing something like that as well. I've got a 4.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and now a baby.
Oh, geez.
So, and they're amazing, and my wife is amazing. But it's just, that leading up to having that newborn, and especially when it's your third, it's like, the good news is we know what we're getting into. The bad news is, how's it going?
Good, yeah.
Good.
Oh, don't let me interrupt, yeah.
Can I help you with anything?
No, I just wanted to stop in and say hi. I'm with Scott Equipment Company.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, I do plumbing, so.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll give you a call.
Access, skid steer, stuff like that.
Cool.
Sell and rent.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a good day. Watch your step. I was looking at y'all like, do y'all know who this is? He goes, don't let me interrupt.
Don't let me interrupt. There's just a camera pointed right at you.
It's a little late.
No.
Yeah. That's why I thought I was like, do y'all know him? And then I could tell by the way y'all were looking at me, y'all were like, expected me to know who that was.
Yeah, see he.
It's like the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's with you? He's with you? Oh man. Okay. Well, good luck with editing that out, Aaron. I think just leave it in. Just like, hey. All right. Well, we'll have stuff like that. Hey, hit up Scott Equipment Company for your local equipment needs.
Don't give him a shout.
Hey, dude, he's hustling. He's out here handing out cards to random people.
When you send him the segment and say, hey, for $500, I'll leave this in.
Right, yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to edit this out.
Sponsor this episode?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Also, there was some comedian, he was like talking about throwing up on like his Puma shoes. And he's like, yeah, but you got to get the sponsorship before you throw up on the Puma shoes. Like, sponsor me or I'm going to throw up on your Puma shoes. He's like, you get throw up on it and then send them the video and say, now sponsor it because now you've already done it.
That's so true. Stick it to my forehead. Jamie Chappelle. Shout out to Jamie. Checks in the mail. Oh goodness. Okay. We're talking about kids. We're talking about kids. The with the the third one on the way, it's like, you kind of know what you're getting into, and it's like, it's exciting. It's just a little daunting because it's like, I know that first year of like having a newborn, it's just kind of rough.
Yeah,
and they're going to need so much of my attention.
It just consumes so much of your time.
Right.
Yeah. And that's part of why I stepped away is I wanted to, I don't want to sit up there and twiddle my thumbs until 5 o'clock because you feel like that's the sign of a good worker. If I'm leaving a job site from Maumelle at 4:30, I'm not coming back to the office. I'm going home.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Now you have the flexibility to do that.
And then I can work after they go to bed.
Right. Yeah. Some of my most productive hours, because I try to be intentional with my time with my kids, is it's from like 9-10 p.m. after like kids go down, spend a little time like catching up with my wife. It's like there's a little bit of quiet time there, and then it's like I gotta get some work done.
Yeah. Yeah.
While everything's not crazy. It's like that middle of the night has
and
become...
you still look around and you see the laundry and the dishes and the toys. And
there's just never any... Oh, man, I got to tell you this. So my buddy, and I hope that he watches this, his name's Taylor Hart. I'll just flat out call him out. He told me yesterday, he sent it to a group of me and my buddies on like a group text, and he's like, hey, him and his girl have talked about children in the future. He goes, just made a deal. Her name's Rachel. Just made a deal with Rachel. Wanted to get y'all's thoughts.
Sounds like it's too late to get your thoughts, but
she's right.
I've made
just
the deal.
made the deal.
I've made the deal.
So true. He goes,
did I screw up?
Right. And yes, I'll give you a heads up. He screwed up big time. He goes, Rachel's going to change all the diapers and I'm going to do everything else. And I'm just like, I was like, insert Trump meme, like this is the worst deal. Like like the worst trade deal of all time. I was like, what's included in everything else? Are you talking like baths, laundry, dishes, bottles, like everything?
Everything in the house?
Like that pertains to the kid? Yeah. Like he's like, well, you don't understand how much I don't like bodily fluids or like changing smelly diapers. I'm like,
you do it for a week and you're over it.
I was like, you don't understand A, how much you're not going to care, and B, how much everything else is.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're talking about like an insurmountable amount of things.
I've had more baby shit on my hands than
yeah, like it's part of parenting.
Yeah.
And like you won't care.
You just get over it. With my very first one, I remember we had the little mama room, the little electric thing, and he loved it. And yeah, you could hear him over here just going to town in his diaper. And I went to get him out, and I turned to look at my wife, and my mother-in-law was there. And I was like, shit. And they're like, was it bad? I was like, no, shit. And I pulled my hand up. I mean, he had this blowout up the back, hands just covered in it. And it was like, oh my gosh, stick him in the sink. Just stick him in the sink. Just hose him off.
Oh, man. The worst is like with your older two, there's a little bit of a bigger age difference in yours, but did you ever like bathe them at the same time?
Oh, they still bathe together.
Okay. And then like, did one of them ever poop while they're both in the tub?
Yes.
That is like nightmare fuel for me. It's happened a couple of times and it's just like, we got to get everybody out. We got to we got to disinfect all the toys. You got two wet kids that are like cold and you can't put them back in the tub because you're.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got to drink. You got to wait the 3 minutes for the water drain, and you got to wait the 10 minutes for the water to fill back up because now you got to clean them again.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's.
Oh, they've peed with the other one in the pool.
Fun.
They've both peed. They've both,
It's stuff like that where I'm like, people that are, and I've gone completely off the rails from what we would normally talk about. I'm just all into like the parenting thing right now.
It's part of it when they're young. I mean, like and that's part of what drove this whole thing is like, these videos, these TikToks, these, snippets, these quotes. It's like, I heard it was by the time your kid goes to college, or graduate high school, you've gotten 93% of the time that you're ever going to get with that kid. And it's like, damn.
Yeah.
They're like, if you're lucky, you get 16, 17 spring breaks.
Right.
You get, you're going to get 25 Christmases.
All right. Well, don't make me cry on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's true.
And like it's the most formative years are under 8 years old, and you don't ever get those times back. And it's like, look, I'll bust my butt for myself. It's like I'm not going to bust my butt for someone else while my kids are still as young as they are.
I had somebody tell me, because I'm pretty career oriented, ambitious, big goals, all that kind of stuff. But I had somebody tell me, dude, your career won't even really start until your kids are like older.
Yeah.
Like maybe like high school age.
Yeah.
It's like your career won't even really start. And I was like, I never thought about it that way. It's so just like, I have to do all these things right now. But it's true. You only get one chance to like be around your kids.
Yeah. And it's the idea that you only have 7% of your time with them left.
Yeah. That's hard. It makes me want to like go spend more time with my mom. Cause now I'm like, also like, man, my mom got 93% of my time with her before I left, before I was like
left.
18.
So now she's down to,
right.
Now she's up to 97%.
I know. And now I'm like, I need to bump up that time I spend with him.
And that's part two. He was kind of steadfast with like the whole 2 weeks of vacation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Versus my mom has now retired. She worked for the state government for, her whole career almost. And she's now retired up to a Christmas tree farm in New Jersey where my stepdad grew up.
Okay.
And so she comes down for like a week, a month, like 1 week a month. She comes down.
Yeah.
But like that's that time that I get, and it's so hard because right now like my kids want her, and so she and I frequently don't get time just together. So I think a couple of times now she's come down, especially like when my wife has had the kids at her mom's house. She'll come down like 1 or 2 days early to try to get just some time with me and her to hang out.
That's cool.
And she's ridden around with me, like even if it's a day after work, she just hops in the car and rides around with me.
That's great. Yeah. Because it's like my mom still works, so it's and I have the kids, so there's a big focus on trying to get her time with her grandkids.
Right.
But it's really tough for us to have any time where it's just like me and her.
Oh yeah.
Like it almost non-existent.
Oh yeah. The best times I get now, like with my dad, are when we go duck hunting.
Yeah. Where you duck hunt?
Out near Cotton Plant.
Okay.
In between Desark and Cotton Plant.
Yeah.
The closest community is Little Dixie.
Okay.
It's just on the east side of the Cache River Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah. Okay.
But now my six-year-old, almost 7-year-old, started going for the first time this last fall.
Nice.
Obsessed. Loves it. I think I spent like $300 on Academy one day buying just him.
It's easy to do.
New coat and like all that I'm excited about because he's excited about it. And he wants to go every single weekend. And we were in the car and I was saying something to my wife about, she's like, well, we need to go up here, I think her grandmother may have been in bad health or something like that. And I was like, then let's go up there, like to Newport where my wife's from.
Okay.
I was like, duck hunting is not a priority. It's not the most important thing. And my 6-year-old happened to be in the car with her and he was like, yes, it is. But it's also hard. But it's also hard to hunt with him because he wants to go out there. He wants to shoot the BB gun in the blind. He wants his hot chocolate and cookies and stuff like that for breakfast out in the blind.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what I'll do, because the club's about an hour and a half from my house, but it's only about an hour from Newport. And so my wife and kids will go to Newport. I'll go out Friday night, hang out Friday night, hunt Saturday with my dad, and we're like actually hunting, sitting quietly, waiting for ducks to come in.
Right.
And then Saturday afternoon, I'll go get him and bring him back.
Yeah.
So then Sunday
the afternoon
morning
hunt's probably better for a 7-year-old anyways.
Well, so he'll hunt Sunday morning.
Oh, Sunday morning. Yeah,
Sunday morning, but he's sitting there, wrestling his little bag of cookies and stuff like that. And it's just like,
we're not gonna shoot a single duck.
We're not gonna get anything. Yeah. And I'm sure he's gonna want to come opening weekend this year, and it's like, nope, you're not coming opening weekend.
Yeah, you could just a friendly white lie. Just tell him second weekend's opening weekend.
Yeah. And
I can't believe there's not more people out here on opening weekend. This is awesome.
Yeah, it was wild. Opening weekend's always really fun. I think I was showing someone a video of us, and you could hear my brother-in-law clearing out his shotgun, and the timestamp for the video is like 7:11 or something like that, or like 6:47, I think maybe. And shooting time was at like 6:25. Like we were limited out in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And of course, that's all the local ducks that live that haven't left, that aren't migrating.
Yeah, You got plenty of time to go back to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, we'll have to go duck hunting sometime. I enjoy duck hunting. Not that I'm very good at it, but if the ducks get close enough, then
Yeah, there you go.
it's not that hard.
They'll give them time. They'll land.
Yeah. I did want to ask you too, through all the experience of your like working career, has there ever been any crazy stories? I'm sure there have. Has there been any that you can share of just like subs or clients or?
So I'll do a couple shorter ones.
Nice.
One of the things that you always struggle with subs is a lot of them smoke.
Yeah.
And so it's always
Smoke
been
all kinds of things.
Yeah. It's always been a big rule of mine is no cigarettes in the house.
Right.
Because it can get into, especially if it's like after drywall, it can get into the drywall, it can get into the carpet. And I don't even really like them doing it at like framing stage. And I had someone come in, and I'll leave names and trades out, but
It was a plumber.
I walked in. It was not. It was not. I walked inside and I said, "I know that you are not smoking a cigarette in my house. Not my house, but." And he goes, "Nope, nope, nope, nope," and ran outside. And they had backed their truck up with the ramp to get tools and materials off. And I said, "Go back out that ramp and stand in the back of your truck. Turn around. Tell me what you see." So he goes up the ramp. He turns around and it was through the garage door. And on the garage door jamb, I had nailed up a no smoking sign. He said, "No smoking." He said, "I see it." I said, "Do you know when that sign went up?" He said, "No." I said, "It went up yesterday. I'll give you one guess who that sign was meant for." And he was like, "Me." And I was like, "You bet." I was like, "And you walked right underneath it and started smoking in my house." Now he was like at the door. So it was, he went deep into the house, but it was like, you know better.
Well, you have to catch it. Like if you have the opportunity to catch it in action, you have to nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Because you can't be there all the time.
No.
It's hard for me to be the bad guy, right? But you have to enforce the rules.
And there are a few things that customers see that are, whether it's disappointing in their eyes or something like that, than seeing either a wad of dip on the floor or a cigarette butt or a beer can inside the house. It makes me livid when that happens.
Yes, because it's not an easy problem to fix. Like if somebody sees some tradesman smoking a cigarette in their house and they want to be upset about it, which is rightfully so.
Right.
There's nothing that you, Ryan, can really do to fix that.
Right. It's just like
it's happened. It's done.
I'm going to harp on them again. But yeah, it's done. I can't, undo the smoke.
Yeah. Or if there's a beer can there and people are worried about, obviously a tradesman there having impaired ability, it just starts getting those wheels of doubt spinning on is my house getting built the way it's supposed to? Putting the nails where they're supposed to be. And
exactly. And, I was in kind of preparation of this, watching several of the podcasts, and Chase Dillon's a good buddy of mine. So I was watching his.
Okay.
And one of the things you talked about was clean job sites. Mm-hmm. And it was, I heard it from a YouTuber guy on social media. He said, the general public does not know what a well-built house looks like. To them, unless short of, the house wrap flapping in the wind, they don't know what a good house looks like.
Absolutely.
But they know what a clean house looks like. And so the perception is that a clean house is a good house. And so, I'll hold back money from subs until they clean. I'll go in there the day after and I tell them look, I don't when plumbers, electricians, and HVAC all get in there, they're all drilling holes and cutting. I'm like, look, I'll get someone in here to come vacuum. But I know who that wire jacket's from. I know who that offcut of pipe is from. I know who all these zip screws are from that the HVAC guys use for the ductwork. If it is something I can look at and I know who it belongs to, then it's yours to pick up.
Love that.
You don't have to vacuum all the sawdust. You don't have to vacuum all the chips.
Yeah.
But if it is your trash, and if I can walk in and go, I know exactly who that is, then that is your responsibility to clean up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they don't want to work around everybody else's trash.
Right.
So don't leave your trash for everyone else to work around.
Yeah.
And because it is a slippery slope. One trade leaves their pipe scraps and that turns into electrician being like, well, I don't have to pick up my stuff. I've been working around the plumber's stuff all day.
Yep.
And then the HVAC guys say the same thing. And it's like, roofers aren't, running the magnet around the yard to pick up their nails. And I mean, just all kinds of, it can get really bad really quick.
Exactly. And I tell the guys too that like middle of the day, like I tell, especially like if my masons are working outside in the summertime, I want to come out here at 1 o'clock and see water bottles everywhere. And I know that you're saying hydrated. But if I walk out here at 5:30, I want to see water bottles picked up.
Absolutely.
Like
I'd rather you get
when you're working, that's fine. Go for it.
100%.
And if you're coming back the next day, maybe I'll let it slide. But when you're done, and my framer is phenomenal. I mean, he sweeps that house clean.
That's good.
And so the day that those guys come in, I go, do you see how clean this house is? Yes. I said, that is the expectation.
Love that. I'd rather you get 30 minutes less work done and leave the house clean when you leave for the day.
Well, it kills me. Some of them are hourly employees. Like they charge hourly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm paying you whether you're picking up or whether you're working.
Right.
Pick up. I had a carpenter that like leave this mountain of Dr. Thunder cans. And I was like, John, I will pay you for an hour of cleanup at the end of the day. Bill me for that hour. That's fine.
It's so
but
funny.
Clean up your Dr.
It's
Thunders.
so funny you say that. It's like it's like Dr. Thunder, the officially licensed drink of like carpenters.
Exactly. Like it was not Dr. Pepper. It was not Coke. It was Dr. Thunder.
That's a common
thing. You knew
thing.
exactly who it was. Because you could see a pile of sawdust from where he had his miter saw set up, and right next to it would be like 8 Dr. Thunder cans.
I had a guy that worked for me that refuses to drink water. He's always drinking Diet Pepsi is his thing. And I'm just like...
See, that's the P word in my house. We don't say the P word.
Oh, okay. Well, he's drinking... Diet P word sounds way worse.
We're a Coke family.
Okay.
So we don't say the word Pepsi in the house.
Well, if it helps, I made a disgusted face when I said it. I was like, ugh. And his like go-to phrase is like, he's got a headache all the time because he never drinks water. He's like, there's water in Diet Pepsi. And it's like, I'm just, bro, like you're going to pass out on a job site. It's 103 degrees out here and you're chugging Diet Pepsi like it's water.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Touching back on the people know what a clean house or a clean job site works like, does. Like for my side of things, it's more rentals. So while we're actively renovating a house, I tell people all the time, like, we're going to market this place for rent.
Yeah.
Anybody might walk in this house at any time. They might have their kids with them. They might have whatever. Like I don't care if you're building a fence, it's like, pick up your nails because there might be some 3-year-old kid playing in this backyard today.
Yeah.
It's just inexcusable. Yeah. Like you have to clean up.
Well, and there are things that I have bought that stay on a job site. There's usually a push broom, a dustpan, and I've got several of the magnets with wheels. And I'm like, and it's got my name on them, but I'm like, look, this is here for you to use, and the expectation is that you will use them.
Right. Please do use them. Right. Yeah, that's really smart. It sounded like you had another story. You said you had a couple. One was the no smoking sign.
So one of the crazy things I found is we had a house that had a fire rock fireplace, like a true masonry built fireplace,
okay.
Like concrete block all the way to the top, and had this steel damper. And I couldn't get the damper to open towards the end of the job, and I was like, that's weird, because it's a real simple device, because there's no pressure damper or anything like that inside there. And I kind of reached up in there and I kind of felt something funny, and I was like, that's not something that's part of this fireplace. And so I called the installer and said, hey, I found a piece of wood first and pulled the wood down. And then I stuck my hand in something that I was like, no, thank you. And so I called him and I was like, hey, I don't know, man, this damper's stuck. Like, I need you to come figure it out. And, like this is part of your gig. Like, I need you to come fix the damper. Uh-huh. And he reached out, and this is out south of Cabot on about 180 acres that this guy owns. Okay. And I'm expecting, and he kind of pulls down like a feather falls out. And I'm like, I'm expecting a crow or something like that. He pulls down a duck skeleton that had clearly been in there for a long time. It was just feathers and bones.
Oh, wow.
The bugs had eaten the rest of it. And I was like, that's a first. And this house is like finished. And I was like, we're putting this in a bag and we're not telling the customer. We're going to clean up our mess from it. And they never need to know that there was a dead bird for possibly months in their chimney.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can't see it. There's no way for me to predict that that's happening. It's had a chimney cap on it for, the bulk of its life.
Right.
And so...
And one random duck that's not normal duck behavior.
Yeah. It was like, what was it? They don't dry feed. So it's like, what was it doing?
I don't know.
But yeah, it was...
He regrets it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you got down to the bottom of the chimney and couldn't get out. And
rest in peace, Mr. Duck.
Yeah.
So sorry. Golly, that made me. I have an aunt that is very pro animal, and I went to visit her one time. She's my great aunt, so she's my grandmother's sister.
Yeah.
And went to visit her one time with my grandmother, and she was telling us about these, what do you call it, cruelty-free mouse traps, because she had a mouse problem, where it's like one that just like closes them in, and then you can go like release them in the wild. You can probably tell where this is going. So while we're there, she wants to go show me one.
Yeah.
So she goes to get it, and there's like a mouse skeleton inside. I'm like, oh, that's really cruelty free, instead of like...
It is, unless you don't check it.
Right. Instead of instantly killing it in a normal mouse trap, you just let it like sit there and starve to death.
Yeah.
It's super kind of you to do that.
Jeez.
Anyways.
I'll have a conversation with people about hunting, and I'm like, you don't realize, animals don't get old and die in the nursing home.
Right. Yeah.
They either get old and slow and are run down by either a predator or a car, or they get sick and slow and they're run down by a predator or a car.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of great alternative endings for the majority of animals.
Right. And you probably eat duck. It's like you go duck hunting and you clean it and eat it.
Oh yeah.
So it's not just wasteful sportsmanship just for bloodlust or whatever.
Oh yeah. No, it's fun, and I enjoy watching them every bit as much. One of my favorite parts of duck hunting is the 10 or 15 minutes before shooting time, which basically isn't necessarily shooting time. It's when it's light enough that they feel like you could safely assess what the animal is. Mm-hmm. And those 15 or 10 minutes, basically right as the animals are waking up, and a lot of times those ducks are flying 10 to 30 feet ahead of you, and you could just sit there and listen. You hear them landing on the water and taking off in the water. It's like this almost surreal part. They don't realize you're there, and so you're just part of their environment for a short time.
That is so true. It's almost like a spiritual thing. Yeah. Especially I agree with you 100%. It's my favorite part. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's because it's a bit of forced detachment from all the things that I'm constantly thinking about, and checking my phone and dealing with work and whatever. It's there's a few minutes here where I'm just enjoying the early sunrise and the sounds and the peacefulness of it. Oh yeah. And it's amazing.
It's dead quiet. Then all of a sudden you hear the lease next to you start shooting. You're like, all right, it's time to go.
I planned on talking so much about business, and it's been a lot about family and duck hunting, but it's been great.
I mean, you've got to have that balance though.
Yeah.
If all you do is work, you would be a stressed mess.
A lot of times I am a stressed mess.
But you've got to take those moments with appreciation, and those times when you can zone out and just enjoy them for what they are.
So true. Was there anything we didn't talk about?
Crazy stories, new business,
kids,
and family. That's the bulk of my life.
Right.
A lot of my subs go fish and stuff like that. You fish, and I'm like, I don't have time to fish. Yeah. And my hobbies are limited to what I can do at the house, out in the garage. And so woodworking or projects is one of my big hobbies. I've had subs walk in my garage you've got more tools than I do. I was like, yeah, but it's my hobby. It's what I do for fun. I've built barn doors. I've built
cool.
Not the bed that my kids are in now, because I bought them a twin over twin over twin bunk bed.
So wait, so it's like a triple decker?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got them detached now. So
that sounds
It's a
awesome.
bunk bed. So the bottom one is basically on the floor.
Right.
And then the other two, though, can be unstacked, and they're a typical height twin bed. So right now we've got one
Okay.
separated out, but because I don't
But
trust
one
my
day
kids. Yeah,
you'll
because I
stack
don't trust
'em
the
up.
7-year-old, especially I don't trust the 4-year-old to be able to get all the way up to the very top.
Yeah, you must have higher ceilings than I do. Like the bottom floor of my house.
9 foot.
Yeah, I've got. I think mine are only 8 foot. It's an older house, and it's like, I'm fairly tall. We have to be careful with like light fixtures we put in the house.
Oh yeah.
Because
I wail on customers' fixtures before, like early on, like right after fixtures get set.
Yeah.
And it's like a dining room table light, and it's just like there's not enough tape and stream. I need to start putting like some of the like little paper streamers from them.
yeah, to like watch. Yeah, caution.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've walked into wall bracing before. Luckily, most times someone doesn't see me. But I have had them watch me before, like walking on my phone and like walk straight into it. And I look over and someone's just sitting there.
And you're like,
one of my guys sitting there giggling to himself. It's like
You're like, shouldn't you be sweeping or something?
That? Yeah. Why aren't you working?
Oh man. Well, dude, it was so great meeting you, and I really appreciate you coming on here and doing this. And for anybody out there watching this, check out his new company, Green Haven Design and Build.
Yep.
Because that sounds. I mean, I'm sure it's not necessarily like a unique idea, but I really do like that you have the skill set and the experience to put all of that in a one-stop shop situation.
And it's been great. And I'm working with some other contractors who I'm friends with, doing design work for them. So it's an additional offering for them. So while
Right.
I'm getting up and running on construction projects, in the meantime, I've got this cash flow coming in from subbing out design work, especially like for spec houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where I know the typical specs they're gonna want. I know what sells
Right.
in new construction.
Yeah.
And so it's been nice having that additional offering in the meantime too.
Right. Yeah, I need to reach out to you because I've got I went the traditional route with an architect for some duplex plans.
Yeah.
Because I have some vacant lots and I have some duplex plans that I'm planning on building in the near future.
Yeah.
But I dealing with that traditional route, there was some pitfalls that I wasn't really excited about how it all goes. Cause like I felt like I kept telling the architect what I wanted. He would come back with something different. And I'm like, well, that you did change what I wanted changed, but like not in the way that you know what I mean? It's
you're
like,
right, and they take a lot more of the approach because, well, it's for ego or some other reason. It's here's the plan I came up with. What are your feedback? Okay, let me take your feedback, and then in 2 weeks I'll give you something else back. Whereas, like I said, the bulk of my work is completed right in front of you.
That would have been really helpful.
And so these customers have this. They feel a part of the process,
and it would save both of us a lot of time, like the waiting weeks and like get something back, and then not being what I wanted just wears me out.
Yeah, but when you're paying that architect hourly,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, I didn't mean to like. Architects are great. I'm glad they exist, but also, I've had my issues.
Yeah.
So.
Must have.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks again so much for coming. This has been the Hustle on Purpose podcast. We hope we brought you some of the knowledge and encouragement you need to go out there and crush your goals to better provide for your family, your business, yourself, and your community. Be sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Share this video with anybody that may find value in it. And go out there and hustle on purpose.